everybody. Happy Thursday. Welcome to FreeThinkers Fireside. We will put the human in humanists, one cozy chat at a time. My name is Helen, also known as House Bells. I have had a couple weeks off. I've had some health issues. So I didn't do a show last week, but I'm back. So hello. Tonight I have the wonderful Mandisa Thomas here. So let's say hi to Mandisa. Hi, Mandisa.
Hi
Welcome to
there,
the show.
Helen, and hello
Yay!
everyone who is watching. Thank you for having me. It is a pleasure
So
to
excited
be
you're here.
here.
So,
Yay.
for people that do not know you, who are you? What you do?
Yeah,
All the things.
so in case you don't know, and if you couldn't tell in the back, I am Mandisa Thomas. I am the founder and president of Black NonBelievers, which is an organization that is headquartered in the Atlanta, Georgia area. I currently reside in Fayetteville, Georgia, which is in the metro area. And we are a nonprofit 501c3 organization that supports Blacks and allies who are atheist, humanist, agnostic, who questioning their religious beliefs in favor of leaving. And also, we do a lot of interfaith. We do interfaith building and collaborations. And so, I am happy to say that in 2026 we will be 15 years old. We'll be celebrating our 15th anniversary
Yay.
as an organization, and I'm so happy to be here.
So, okay, so you just said that the organization is 15 years old. So, from when you started the organization, like what inspired you to like actually do this as a member of the Black community and to help people that were leaving religion? Like what inspired you to actually start this org?
Sure. So I drew from my upbringing, right? I really had to assess my background, which wasn't formally religious. I was raised in the Black conscious community, the Black nationalist community in New York. Born and raised in New York City, left when I was 21 years old. But my background was very much rooted in education, particularly about Black history and culture that went beyond just the period of enslavement in the United States and in North America. So, learning about that, but of course, learning about institutional racism and injustice and institutional oppression of marginalized communities and marginalized groups really helped me to understand at an early age how Christianity impacted Black communities in particular. So I consider myself fortunate enough to have learned that at an early age. And I also I'm a classically trained singer. So I sang in various churches with a voice teacher growing up. And so having read different forms of mythology growing up and then listening to some of these Christian sermons and such, I was just like, I did a lot of comparing and contrasting. And it just really, there were a lot of things within the Christian religion itself, within Christianity, that were just very creepy. And I must say that even though there is a lot of misogyny in these Black conscious spaces, the Black conscious folks, the elders that raised me, did not raise me to be subservient. They did not raise me to know my place as a woman or as a female. And I also come from a long line of very strong women in my family. So that just wasn't going to happen. And so moving to Atlanta, and as my family grew, I actually connected with Jeremiah Kamara. Some of you may be familiar with him. He produced the documentary Contradiction, which is on Amazon Prime.
Okay.
I highly recommend you watch it if you haven't. There is a link to resources on our website. But I really thought about one of my teachers, one of my former mentors, one of my mentors, who was a very strong Black woman, but she's still very religious. We connected around like 2010, and when I started voicing my critiques on religion and the God concept, she actually tried to convince me not to do that. but she was speaking
Oh,
from
wow.
her own fear, and that really bothered me. It really, really bothered me that someone who taught me to be so strong and outspoken, especially about matters that pertained to Black folks, was trying to persuade me to talk about from talking about one of the very things that impacts Black folks. So I just could not accept that. And so in connecting with other Black atheists and then eventually of the larger secular community online, when I first saw like Matt Dillahunty, and met with and started connecting with other folks.
Mhm.
Um, Also, like folks like Ayanna Watson from Black Atheists of America at the time. So there were just so many people that I was like, wow, I'm like, this is a whole community, this is a thing. And
Right.
at that point, I had long stopped saying I was an atheist. I would call myself spiritual, but not religious, because I had
Mhm.
the whole God concept thing. But when I did firmly re-identify as an atheist, I sought out others. I sought out community. I sought out fellowship, because fellowship is not a religious word.
Right.
And really, it came from, and then I received an advisory. I wouldn't call it a warning, but it was an advisement about attending most atheist meetups, which tended to be predominantly white, and they tended to be kind of tone deaf. And so I went in with an open mind to my
That
first
would be me,
listening.
white and tone deaf.
I went with an open mind, and I experienced what I was advised about. And so the only other Black guy who was there, who was also gay, I said to him, I said, there has to be more of us out here.
Right.
We are in Atlanta, which is a very heavily populated, which is a heavy Black population. I said, because there were people coming to me and saying, well, you don't believe in God? Or they were reaching out to me. They're saying, I don't believe it either. And so I said, there has to be more of us out here. There has to be a way for us to reach more of us, particularly in the Atlanta area.
Mhm.
And so we just decided from there, we started as Black NonBelievers of Atlanta. And also we wanted to connect and collaborate with other local groups, because I found out there were more, but also connect with the other Black entities out there, because at the time, like I said before, there was Black Atheists of America, and there was also African Americans for Humanism, which
Mhm.
was a program of the Center for Inquiry. There was also the Black Skeptics group out of Los Angeles. And so being mindful of all of that, I wanted to lend my hands to, and I found out Jeremiah, I met Jeremiah in person. He's based in the Atlanta area. And so really trying to connect with the local folks here.
Mhm.
And as soon as we started, it really started out with a bang, because there were people who were like, oh my gosh, finally there is a group that I can directly identify and connect with.
Right.
And I was fortunate enough to meet my sister, one of our other partners in crime, Sharon, who works at a local radio station. And so we had a connection there. And we really started it because there was a need for it. There was a
Right.
need for us to continue to connect and not just meet with other folks and Black folks in the Atlanta area, but also to try to establish a network and a community of folks who could, who could do things together, whether they were social or even service in nature, and just really, really help people. First of all, let them know they're not alone, and
Mhm.
that there is support out here for you. So I drew from many different places, and also that feeling of isolation when it comes to being, in Black communities, where folks are still so very predominantly religious, and the identity of Christianity being so, and religion and being religious being so interwoven into the cultural identity, that it makes it so difficult to have these conversations. So we really wanted to tried to address and resolve a number of issues
Right.
that do intersect with us all. And so I'm sorry if I kind of went long with that
No, I
explanation,
wanted you to,
but
because
yeah,
I asked you like what inspired you, and that was the whole point. So
you
please
know,
keep going.
also I would say when I did re-identify as an atheist, and that was also connecting with other Black atheists and other atheists online who I felt more comfortable. I felt more at ease at the time with them more than I did with some of the folks I knew.
Right.
And so it was in meeting them, it was in connecting with them that allowed me to feel more liberated as well, because we have
Oh.
all been indoctrinated in a lot of ways. You know, I didn't escape indoctrination just because I wasn't raised religious. So it really helped me to unpack a lot more things and a lot more stigmas and a lot more of these misconceptions that we have about ourselves and each other. And the because I grew up in a single parent household. You know, I am my brothers and I are, you know, products of, you know, childhood abuse as well.
Hmm.
And so really undoing and unpacking a lot of these societal notions, especially when it comes to family, especially when it comes to people who are around us. I already had to do that work, and unlearn a lot of that. So so the religion piece wasn't as difficult for me, but it did play a part, because there was a part of me that still felt like, well, what if there is some entity watching? But then I'm like, well, if he, she, or it is watching some of the things I've done in my life, then they must be having a good time watching it. So therefore, you know, I mean, so you know, it's
I'm like,
just
I'll give you a show.
right,
Like,
right, exactly.
like,
So it definitely, I think about what being, you know, openly identifying as an atheist, especially as a Black woman, what it did for me as well, and what it could help do for so many other people, and how I could lend what I had to offer to this, you know, to this space, and to this piece. Did I know it was going to become a 15-year thing where Black non-believers is now the most recognized and also referenced organization? No, you couldn't have told me that back in 2010. You couldn't have
right.
told me that it was going to be what it is now. But it started as me wanting to be a part of this and do so really to help people, and to connect with folks and see how we could build from here.
Yeah. So, um, what? So I was listening to you, and you mentioned some things that you had to deconstruct and ideas even within your own community. What particular thing did you have to realize within your own community that you needed to deconstruct about like Black religious folk and the people that leave religion within, your own community? Because like I've done that, but I'm very curious about like what it's like for your experience.
Yes. So in many Black spaces, right, there are a lot of pro-Black spaces that still perpetuate a lot of misogyny. You know, they
Mhm,
still perpetuate a lot of homophobia. They still perpetuate white supremacy, right? Because we're looking at the history of Black folks and communities, and how we have been
mhm,
oppressed, how many people have lost their lives as a result of racial injustice, economic injustice.
mhm,
So there is this narrative that the Black man has to be saved, right? But not the woman. You know, there is a lot of internalized, what we call misogynoir, a lot of anti-Black woman sentiments, even within our own communities. We also still have to deal with a lot of colorism in our communities, because you have to remember that during the period of, I think this is a global phenomenon, right? You see
right.
this not just among Black folks, but folks who are people of color, and how the lighter you are, the more opportunities you have, and
Mhm,
the closer your proximity to whiteness, the better your chances for success. and also advancement. And this has been very, very commonplace across the world.
Mhm. Yeah.
You see it in many different cultures. But when you're talking about folks who are clearly of a darker skin
Mhm.
tone, and you're forced to accept this image of a God that you have absolutely no chance of attaining. This is supposed to be the standard of perfection, the standard of savior, the standard
Oh,
of
okay, yeah.
beauty. So it really, people don't really understand the psychosis that it is created, and it is. And now I am no psychiatrist or psychologist, right?
Ah.
But um, you you can observe and also take from those who have studied this,
Mhm.
um, enough to and then also look at some of the leaders who have, and Dr. King being one exception, right? Because he was brown skinned. But there is still a lot of the colorism that needs to be resolved in Black communities, and this notion that that white is still right, because there was a period of time in Black communities that where to achieve success you had to be like white people, or what the perception of white people was.
Right.
Now what that looked like was ridiculous, right? But
Yeah.
what that meant was, and that also plays into a lot of politics and notions within Black communities in religious spaces,
Mhm.
and what it means to be respectable, hence the respectability politics. You can't
Right.
talk,
Mhm.
you can't talk with a certain dialect, or you can't, you cannot, you can't be yourself in certain spaces, because, and then partly because in for many years you really could not be. And when it came to advancement and opportunities, especially especially in the United States, because there was a reason why affirmative action had to be implemented in the first place. For those who still
Mhm.
don't understand why that was important. So I mean, I could go into like the historical piece, like, oh my gosh, we could go into that like for a little while,
It's
because
a
I'm a
it's a
history
many
nerd,
layered
right?
it's a many layered cake of shit.
It really, really is. It is
Yeah.
very, very multi-layered,
Mm.
and there are a number of folks within secular communities. When I go and when I speak, and when I address people, and when I ask them if they know who Carter G. Woodson was, who was a very iconic historian during the Harlem Renaissance,
Mhm.
and a Harvard graduate, um, was the founder of Negro History Week, which became Black History Month, strong critic of the Black church. Very,
Mhm.
very, and also was very, very adamant about making sure that Black history was not erased, and that it was not just erased, but maintained and sustained, for forever. And so
Right.
this is often information and education that many people do not get either until college or ever in their lifetime. And so I appreciate the folks in the community who do have an awareness of other cultures and other communities, but a lot of people still don't. And this is a huge part of what we bring to the table. We bring information, we bring education, we bring the history, and we bring perspectives that people aren't necessarily aware of, as well as the fact that the Black community, even though we are dismayed by how heavily religious it still is, has always been a community of resilience and resistance. That there have been many accomplishments, there are many iconic historic Black folks that folks aren't aware of, that I had the opportunity to learn about. My mother was not the type of person who just relied on the public school education. So she took us to
Mhm.
different cultural programs. We were always in the library, and I read a lot. I read a
Mhm.
lot as a kid. So there were a lot of folks who, folks are just learning about now, that I'm like, man, I knew about them a long time ago. So,
Right.
it's like, well, and there are some people who still don't know about them. So it's important, the perspectives and the knowledge, and what we bring to the table with the activism within our space, because it is
Mhm.
more than simply just letting go of the concept of God. You have to understand why we do, why in certain communities it is more of a challenge, and why there are more institutional factors in play as to how religion has been harmful. So
Right.
these are when we're talking about diversity, equity, and inclusion, these are the factors that are extremely important.
Right. And what's funny is that, like, when you were talking about the issue within the community of even people within your own community that don't know its own history, that
Hmm.
they, because like I went to public school, and it's very glossed over. Like, we do the Civil War, and we go up to Jim Crow, and it's pretty much a week. And it's just hitting the strong points, but it doesn't go into like underground organizations. It doesn't go into other leaders. It
Hmm.
doesn't go into how systemic racism is still a thing, and why it is so hard to untangle from the American experience, and how the default is white.
Yeah.
Like, apparently, because I have less melanin and I'm better than you. Apparently, that's the rule, which is still, and also how bias plays into a lot of things. And people, once they start learning, especially if you're a white person and you want to do better, you want to be a better person, and you start looking at yourself, you're just like, oh fuck, I was sold like the stuff that I was
Yeah.
taught. Like, we all learned that slavery is bad. Great, that's a good thing to learn, not to own other people. Cool. But it does go into why, how slavery shifted into it becoming, well, you can't own people, but these people are still less than you because they, because of their skin tone, and still treated as a less than.
Right.
It doesn't go into that societal psychological part of things. And it's really interesting hearing you talk, because even within your own community, that default of the white man, the white savior, is
Hmm.
the natural progression of how society is maintained. Like, I didn't, like, it's obviously, like, I wouldn't know that, but it gets into the insidiousness of how, like, this is just a part of, even in the Black community, of the way that the culture is.
Hmm.
And that's disturbing.
Yeah, I mean, and I shout out to everyone who is watching. I see, of course, Kelly, Detroit Atheist Queen. I see Dade. I see AJ. I see
That's
all
all
of
my dorky
y'all.
friends. It's all of my dorky
Yay!
friends.
That's all.
Hello.
That y'all are all fam. So
TC's here. She's been
yes, yeah. Hey, yes. And I think
Hi,
it's
on cheer.
important for people to it's important for people to understand how America became a superpower. And this is where I also have to shout out my girl Cynthia, because we have been, I have been a proponent, and I've learned, off, early on about the movement for reparations for Black folks,
Mhm.
because you have to understand how America became a superpower. It was built
Right.
off of slave labor. It
Yep.
was not because these folks just worked hard and built up their wealth naturally. It came from stealing people. It came from a system of corruption, and also manipulating um, folks, and it doesn't absolve folks from responsibility, when it comes to the African continent, and the chiefs and folks who were a lot of them were responsible for selling some of their own people or kidnapping their own people. However, it was a very, very vast system that changed the dynamic of the world, and
Mhm.
and it shaped certain countries, America, Britain, especially
Mhm.
Britain and certain European countries, into superpowers off of the trafficking of human beings, off of the murder of human beings, off of the rape of human beings.
Right.
And so it's important that when it comes to justice, when it comes to who has been, who has reaped the benefits, and the folks who we're still fighting. And
Right.
these are aspects that some folks don't, still don't understand, or still. And I got to tell you, people don't understand that learning about this stuff can be difficult.
Oh, I'm sure.
It can be very, very difficult. And there is, I think that there are folks, and I don't want to like be conspiratorial, right? But there are a handful of folks who do not want the like masses of people waking up and learning and realizing what has been done to so many people. Because the more you learn, it will be uncomfortable.
Oh,
And
yeah.
you will be
Mhm.
mobile, and you will be motivated and mobilized to do something. That's why so many slave rebellions were squashed very early on. And those who were captured were made to be punished severely and set as an example for other people.
Right.
Because, like, if you do this, this will happen to you. But what
Mhm.
eventually happens? People get tired, people rise up, but at the same time, if you have institutionally folks who have bought into this, and who have been raised in it, it can be very, very difficult. And like you said, especially if communities are still perpetuating these notions without even realizing them. And these are a lot of the things that we do discuss in that, and that will take time. And some people might never come out of it. But for those of us who are brave enough to challenge how we were raised, and also kind of go against that system, if you will. We find those who are like-minded, and who are also willing to do that work. So yeah, it's a
It's not
lot.
fun.
No, it
It's
isn't.
not fun, like, when you have to, like, when I faced my own inner, like, prejudice and racism, and it wasn't, like, I wasn't, like, racist in the term, like, I didn't think, like, I thought other people were, like, we were better than other, but it's that, like, there's good Black people and there's bad Black people, you
Mhm.
know, and, like, we talked about this the other night, like, psychological priming, and the things that you learn as a white person, you know,
Mhm.
like, and the reason why, Black people can't advance because, they're lazy or whatever, or they're criminal,
Right.
like,
Yeah.
whatever cops told us in the 1990s, guys, like,
Mhm.
which was a propaganda show, by the way.
And
So
remember, that used to be in history
I
textbooks,
know.
that Black folks were lazy,
Yep.
and that we enjoyed slavery, and that was in a lot of that. Those were in a lot of curriculums, especially in the South. There was so much. There's so much that I appreciate that has changed, that unfortunately administrations are trying to roll back. But if I can imagine to see some of those textbooks back in those days, they had to have been horrendous. I mean, you can also see like clippings, like news articles of how Black folks were depicted, with a very dark
Mhm.
skin, and like the minstrels, like with the big Black lips. There was a
Mhm.
documentary years ago that was narrated by Esther Roll, who played Florida Evans on Good Times.
Mhm.
It's called Ethnic Notions. And
Mhm.
I was made to watch it a few times as a kid. And it talked about the stereotypes about Black people, and
Right.
um, and also how that contributed to, how, especially like like you said, the Uncle Tom, the Sambo, the mammy, right? The Black woman is always supposed to be this matriarch that cares for people, but yet is non-sexualized, or what the standard of beauty is, and it certainly isn't Black people. So there's a lot of that has been internalized. And when you talk to older people, especially in the South, and they had to live with those images, and how they were treated as a
Mhm.
result, how that impacted legislation as well. That, I mean, it's not just heartbreaking, it's infuriating. And we don't realize how much of an impact that has on all of us. So, I mean, just coming from, I like I said, I take from my right,
Right,
and,
exactly.
and it's funny because yeah, when we were slaves, we did all that. Yeah, we did all that
Yeah,
work.
you
We
know,
helped
all
build
the
this
work.
country, right?
But
So
now that you are owned by white people, then, then suddenly you're lazy and don't want to work hard and contribute for
yeah,
some reason.
yes. But yeah, I was, like I said, I was fortunate enough to have been raised with this understanding and this education of Black communities, both very, very good and also some that is not so good. It's unfortunate though that because of white supremacy, you saw a lot of the bad being highlighted and propagated so much that folks believed it. And I think you kind of see this even in the microaggressions that we see within our communities at times.
Right.
Oh, and I'm talking about the secular community.
Yeah.
You know, like how do like, because there are times when we're deemed to be the spokespeople for all Black folks, and I'm like, no, I'm not. I'm not even a spokesperson for all Black atheists, right?
No.
That's not my
I'm
job.
not
Or
I'm
that's
not a I'm not the spokesperson for all atheist white women. Don't please
right,
no.
right.
Right.
Yes, yes. So, I mean, these are just so many things that unfortunately, because there are some folks who through privilege and through not having to experience that or have had a lineage of their family members and community members who've directly experienced this, they've never had to think about it.
Right?
And so these are things that we at least try to bring more to the forefront. And I like to do it in a tactful way. I like to do it in a way where people are learning and there is compassion for those who didn't know. But once you know, now there is an opportunity. There is that opportunity, and I even say obligation, especially for those of us who, promote critical thought and and skepticism and evidence-based principles and practices, that we have a responsibility to shift our thinking as well as what we do, our practice. And that's how hard that can be, a very, very difficult thing to do, but guess what, it needs to be done.
I think also too that like when you like even within like feminist circles, when you hear about women betraying women and women in like in from anyone in the workplace to like your coworker all the way up into government, where a
Hmm.
woman will step over another one to get some kind of prominence or promote like very bad ideas, like women
Hmm.
belong in the home, and should
Yeah,
be baby makers and they shouldn't have access to like birth control or abortion or healthcare or whatever. Pick a thing.
yeah.
There's this, and you want to educate them why it's important that women have access to these things, but and you want to have sympathy for them. You want to be like, maybe they don't know, maybe they were taught one of the worst ideas, and it makes you angry because you're
Hmm.
just like, what the fuck you doing, girl? Like, what are you doing? And I
Yeah.
have to imagine like, because like, and I want to give, like, I always want to give a little bit of grace, like maybe they just didn't have access to the education, but there's that anger because we are facing such a backlash against rights to minority groups that you don't have, a part of us don't really have time for it. I think also too, but I can understand, especially in the Black community, where you're not given this, like growing up, and I like to think it's getting better, like a little bit. It's like one step forward, two steps back all the fucking time. But but not having access, especially like older Black folks who didn't get that education, and they default into well, the white person is going to give me safety and power because I can't have it myself, rather than rising up on their own. And because we're always looking for because it's easier to give our power over to somebody else and have them do the work than us do it ourselves, But unfortunately, if you align with the leopard, the leopard's going to eat your face party, and you're surprised that they eat your face. And it's one of those things that you want. It's a mixture of like disappointment and empathy and sympathy at the same time. Yeah.
So I will say that, we say this all the time, human beings do human things, right?
Yep.
There is no matter where you are, whether you are in a predominantly Black society or predominantly Black,
right? I'm sorry, Equus is here for the first time. Hi, honey. Anyway, go ahead.
So I think it's important for us to understand that as human beings, there will always be conflict. I like to, I'm not sure if you've heard of Queen Hatshepsut, who
no,
was
I haven't.
in Egyptian history. Okay, so I'm about to do just a little bit of history here.
That's fine. I like it.
So So for those so I go, I learned about, I don't know this of course for certain, but Hatshepsut was an Egyptian. She's also referred to as Pharaoh because during her rule, one of her brothers was always challenging her. She had to deal with a lot of male, she had to combat a lot of her male family members. So sometimes instead of just being a queen, she would put on a pharaoh's. She would dress as a pharaoh. Like she would portray herself like basically as a king. So
right.
And because there were issues within the family. There are and we see this in a number of throughout history. There have always been conflicts with people. And there were even even on the continent of Africa there were always different like tribal wars and stuff. And throughout history, we see this, in different continents and different cultures. And, human beings we are ripe for self-preservation.
Yes.
But do I think, again, I contend that the transatlantic slave trade, which changed the dynamic of the world, really, really did a number on what, it really was the advent of white supremacy and what it looks like now, especially with that tragic, that tragedy in history. So there are a lot of women who have, they perpetuate and embody white supremacy, and they do go against things that are progressive to other women because they are conditioned. Part of it, a lot of it is conditioning, and some of it, and there have been other Black folks. I also think about the tension between Booker T. Washington and W.E.B. Du Bois, back in the late 1800s. Now, Booker T. Washington was that blue collar former slave, helped found Tuskegee University, which is definitely it's good. It's a school for engineering and agriculture, and it specializes in a lot of that work. W.E.B. Du Bois was Harvard educated. He thought, he definitely was established that Black elite. And so there was definitely tension in between what they thought was best for Black people. Booker T. Washington thought that it was best to kind of just get along with white folks. And W.E.B. Du Bois was like, no, you need to challenge the system.
Right.
You need to stand up against it. They both had their perspectives on how to do it in different ways, but they definitely disagreed with each other. So, it's very, very, I think, as human beings, like history is so fascinating and I absolutely love it. And even in, because even in learning and going to different places to learn about the history, you can empathize and you can feel what these folks went through.
Right.
and
Mhm,
you
mhm.
can you can take on what what it was like back then. And I think the more we recognize it and a deliberate deliberate attempt to acknowledge and recognize what our blind spots are, because there are many, and there's only so many things that we can learn like within a lifetime. But to know that this information is out there, to understand that there are societal stigmas, and even thinking back to like the what is considered the Middle Ages, before the Catholic Church came in and started burning midwives and branding them as witches,
Right. Mhm.
because it was the women, who, and in a lot of African societies, the lineage went through the woman
Yep.
for a very long time. So, as other folks came in, they, of course, they sought to change that. They definitely sought to weaken, the power of women. And so we're still seeing a perpetuation of that. And it's not that women don't have, ruthless ambitions.
Oh, no.
Um, you
Mhm.
know, but I do think that much of what we're seeing now with like the trad wives or the trad girlfriends, the ones who feel like, well, these women are being too outspoken, is a result of white supremacy and male dominance. And these are things that folks don't even realize that they are perpetuating because of the communities that they have grown up in.
I mean, because like the default that like we're taught, like we're taught as white people, that if especially a black woman, like a black man raising his voice, he's aggressive, but a black woman raising her voice is that she's too strong. And they'll use whatever derogatory bullshit that people say, but it's almost like they should especially be quiet. Like,
Oh yeah.
yeah, like know your place, even more for white women, and we get that too. But it's like, if you and I were going to speak up in the same room with a bunch of like assholes, like my voice would be respected more than your voice, and you would be seen as more aggressive, even if we're using the exact same tone, talking about the exact same thing.
We get the
You know?
angry black woman syndrome, and I can't tell
Yeah.
you how many times, even as respected as I am in this community, I can say one thing. Someone who is white and particularly male can say the exact same thing, and people be like, "Mm-hmm, yep,
Mm-hmm.
yep,"
Yeah.
and I'm sitting up here like, "Ain't this some shit?" But
It
it's
is
like,
funny when
yeah,
you're like,
mm-hmm,
we experience too. Like, I could have a man that says the exact same thing the way that I said it, and they're like, "Oh yeah," and I'm like, "I just said that, motherfuckers!" like,
mm-hmm,
but it's because a man is talking,
mm-hmm,
and so like we can definitely connect on that intersectionality of just like existing as women and the bullshit that you experience if you own a vagina. But like we talked about this, like I've never been a black woman. I don't know that
mm-hmm,
experience, but and I wouldn't know, so I don't have one foot in the game or the other,
mm-hmm. But
but
I think as and I'm sorry not to cut you off, Helen, but
no, that's fine. Go ahead.
as women, we experience a lot of the same issues and challenges, especially when
Right.
it comes to our bodies,
Hmm.
trying to understand them, realizing that there are, because of because of how women are treated, that we are not made to understand fully how our bodies work. And oftentimes women in general, our what we experience as far as our bodies, when it comes to child rearing, or even when it comes to things that we deal with when it comes to our periods and stuff like that. A lot of what we deal with is very it is very I'm gonna say underrated, but it is often dismissed.
Yes.
And these are things that we can
Mhm.
absolutely relate to, as women. um of course, as black women, the mortality rate is higher, especially when it
Mhm.
comes to like maternal
Issues,
when it comes
yeah.
to maternal issues, and also other health factors. But definitely as women, there are a lot of things that we deal with and we go through that it is disappointing at times how often we do go against each other, because we've been taught that, well, women are supposed to be chaste, we're not supposed to talk about these things. To be outspoken is to be it's to be wanton, the wanton woman, if you will. It's the whole damned if you do and damned if you don't. And we're not supposed to have a better understanding of our bodies, and we're just supposed to take what a lot of these quote unquote accredited men say,
Right.
as the word. And so, when we think about like I said, the things that we go through, it's important that we help each other best understand them as women, whether you are a cis woman or trans woman, or whether you are, binary or not. And I think that, if more people just took the time, even if you didn't learn it growing up, there is, once you have a better understanding of what you can learn and how you can do better, then it's important to do so. And we can really turn a lot of these misconceptions around if we really, really want to not just do it for ourselves, but do it for our communities, do it for our children, do it for the people who are in our lives, and even those who are adjacent to us, because this impacts all of us.
Right. And well, like we were talking about like the intersectionality and these ideas that women have higher pain tolerance. I don't know where that notion came from. Is because we give birth and it's really painful. It's like, yeah, it is. But it's that outside concept of like, well, you don't experience it and it looks like you're able to endure more, and it's like, well, we have to, like, because it sucks. But like, I remember, like, that's one intersectionality just as women that have had children, or the concept that we have higher pain tolerance, and I'm like, that's bullshit.
Right.
I go, but the thing is that we're also told to mask our pain, because we're also taught that being needy is wrong and asking for help is wrong, and that because we're like this sort of like we're bothering people if we're asking for assistance and help, and that's something that it's taught to us. And I can imagine, especially because I feel this as a woman, but if you're a person of color, it's even more intimidating, because you're already facing that just by the color of your skin, and then add gender on top of that. And then people saying like, well, you need to be independent because that's the American experience. So we are independent beings and we are to take care of ourselves. And if you ask for help, then you're a needy Black person and we can't have that, and blah, blah, blah. Like these, and it gets into your head because it's the lies that some capitalist said about what is okay and what's not okay.
Right. And they also don't know Black history well.
Right.
And like I said, the resilience of Black communities, and how once slavery, or once the period of enslavement ended, for some, while we celebrate Juneteenth because it was 2 years late in 1865, in Texas, there were Black communities have always had to work harder with less support.
Right.
Always had to do that. And I think, the phrase, we make things look easy. I think a lot of women especially make things look easy. And like you said, because some of us just keep going even when things are hurting. That does tend to lend the idea that, well, maybe they aren't experiencing pain. But the moment you resist, I think about all of these, folks who, especially Black folks who resisted their enslavement, were killed, they were lynched. Those who resisted the Jim Crow laws were lynched, because how dare people who are enslaved actually fight against that? I mean, that was a notion like, what is wrong with you people?
Like you're supposed to be enslaved. Don't you know your place?
Right. like what is wrong with y'all? Why are y'all so angry? And I know that Cynthia says that a lot in her talk, right? And also, when it comes to atheism, right? I know Greta Christina a long time ago. Shout out to her. I know I haven't seen her in a while, but she
Speaking
had
of
a talk.
pain, I'm having a little bit of breakthrough pain because of my fibroid. Keep talking. I'm just gonna go grab a pain med. So keep talking.
Okay,
I'm listening to you.
right?
I can feel it. So I'm
Yes.
just gonna go keep talking. I can hear you, so keep talking. I'll be right back.
Okay. So I remember I remember what I was saying now. So for those of you who aren't familiar with Greta Christina, can you tell I also host shows? But she did a talk about why atheists are so angry, because as we know, there are many Christians and other believers who are quick to call us angry and say, well, what's wrong with you people, right? First of all, you don't believe in God. You just want to do whatever you want to do. Like what the heck is wrong with y'all? And without fully understanding or even humanizing us, they don't understand what does make us angry. We are still human beings. We are not without compassion. Many of us are very, very passionate about our families, about our communities, and about what is going on in the world. Hence, why so many of us are very pro reproductive justice, why we are pro economic justice, why we are pro religion and government, the separation of religion and government. These are things that we are extremely passionate about. And what does make us angry? Because anger is a valid emotion. It is a very, very valid stance to have, especially when you see constant mistreatment and even brutalization of folks. So
Right.
to dismiss people, to dismiss the Black experience as, those angry Black folks, or even those angry atheists, or those angry women, or those angry, or whoever it is, understanding, especially if you're a marginalized community, and many of us are that intersects. We come from multiple, or we represent multiple marginalized communities. So, for those who are willing to understand, this is why, we are angry. You have you have to it's important that you understand better the anger and how we can address and resolve it.
Well, I think like after this since the slave trade, but especially since recent history, Jim Crow. Actually, slavery is pretty recent history. I don't even like it is like it's not that long ago. Like it's as three grandpas. Three
Mm-hmm.
grandpas. Okay, that's not that long.
Mm-hmm.
And the generational trauma that comes with that, like because you're carrying that legacy with you. Like living in the United States and having that, three grandpas ago, there was slavery, and then like one or two grandpas ago, you're living through Jim Crow, and learning that like Abe Lincoln was a racist and just happened to decide that like, oh, we gotta go to the slave trade, not because he thought it was the best way to unite the country, and
Yep.
nothing with freeing people,
Yep.
and being like
Yep.
the injustice of slavery. Like Abraham Lincoln was a racist. But they're like, no, he's and like the white story is told, no, he freed the slaves because he was such a good man. He realized it was wrong.
Right.
That's
Yeah.
the
No.
lesson that we're taught. And you're taught
Mm-hmm.
like, no, motherfucker, that guy was a racist.
Mm-hmm.
He did
He
not think that
said,
Black people should be equal.
he said during his debate with Stephen Douglas that
Mhm.
if he could preserve the Union and save it without abolishing slavery, he would. I
Yeah.
mean, he also said he said he would also do it as, he would also, abolish slavery as well. But if he said without abolishing it, he would do it. But he said his main goal was to preserve the Union, not ending slavery. So these are things that we are not taught on the elementary, level. And, oftentimes we have to learn that, or many people have to learn that either outside of their education. And I don't even want to say public school education, because there are a lot of private schools that omit this information, this education as well. And certainly in your religious schools. Well, I think Catholic schools have some of the best forms of education, but I don't want to go too much on a tangent here. But like I said, I was fortunate enough to have read about that in Assata Shakur's autobiography.
Mhm.
Assata Shakur, who passed away a few months ago, who is very much a revolutionary. And she is a prime example of how certain white people see her as this quote unquote Black criminal who escaped from prison after quote unquote shooting a New Jersey State police officer. Even though when you look at the case, it was very well documented that that Black activists who were in the Black Panther Party and the Black Liberation Army were targeted by the
Right.
police. They were
Right.
killed by the police. They were set up by the police,
Right.
and there was no gun residue on her hands whatsoever. And she was shot, so she could not have shot or killed that police officer. And so it is very much so when we talk about perspectives, and her book is really, really just a good way to find out other, and she's just speaking from like her perspective. But
Right.
like I said, I really credit, my I do credit my upbringing and
Mhm.
having to read a lot, having to learn a lot. I'm a documentary person. I love
I love a
documentaries.
documentary.
I love a good documentary that has good
I
information
learned all
and
about the 14th
things to
Amendment
reference.
from a documentary couple, and
Mhm,
I was like, "Damn, I didn't know all that." And like
mhm.
just from a documentary. And then I was like,
Yeah,
"That's some bullshit."
right, right. And I love that as a community, we should be talking about these issues that still impact us. Because once we deconstruct, there are a lot of folks who are still struggling with overcoming these religious beliefs, not just from a biblical perspective, but from a societal perspective. There are a
Right.
lot of things that people have not. I remember having a conversation with one of my cousins not too long ago. She's deconstructing as well. And that's been part of the beauty of us doing this work. We
Mhm.
find, we find that there are, folks who are questioning, and it takes just for us to speak up. But there are a lot of things that people who were raised, especially in fundamental religious households, there's a lot of history they don't know. There's a lot of policy and politics they don't know, because they have been sheltered from it, and not just shielded, but they've been taught that, well, the only thing that matters is that we prepare ourselves to go to heaven, so we don't have to care about what's going on in the world. Hence Jehovah's Witnesses, right?
I was going to
So
mention a Jehovah's
yeah.
Witness story. A Black woman that worked for us that was a Jehovah's Witness, and I don't remember. I think I told her the Abe Lincoln thing. We were just having a conversation, and she goes, "What?" I go, "Yeah." I go, "He was a racist. He didn't
Hmm.
think that you deserved rights, and you should be owned by someone like me." And
Hmm.
she had no idea. She was like, "I was told he freed the slaves." I'm like, "He did, but it wasn't for altruistic reasons."
Hmm.
And she was very shocked by that. And then somehow I went into a little bit about like, how about the 14th Amendment, like a very like preliminary, like, like this is the stuff I gleaned from like the very little education I have. And
Yeah.
she didn't know a lot of it, and she was
Hmm.
shocked. And I was like, okay. And I thought she would know more than me, because it's her community, it's her people, and that would be the
Yeah.
default.
And that's really where talking to people
Yeah.
comes
Yeah.
in, because there are a lot of Black folks who they don't know this history, and they have not thought about how these things impact us. And part of that is because, and I think that a part of this is because of the trauma of
Hmm.
being enslaved and also being terrorized
Right.
by the American government. A lot of older Black folks are reluctant to talk about it and reluctant to share the history of it, because it is very, very painful. Because again, we've been taught to just deal with this pain and just move forward, and then God's going to save us. We've never really been able to unpack, just the sheer terror of what we've been through,
Hmm.
and how future generations, not necessarily just simply embodying the pain, but
Hmm.
also how we learn from it and how we move forward in a way that we are not repeating the same mistakes. And that
Right.
has been a disconnect that I do hold the Black community accountable for. And also, again, having these nonsensical arguments about who is Black, who is not. And I know Cynthia and Kelly, we talk about this stuff all the time. And if there are Black folks who have an issue with me saying this, too bad. But there are conversations that come along with that when we talk about issues like reparations and what economic justice looks like, what racial justice looks like, and what reconciliation looks like, there's still a lot of infighting there. There's still a lot of people who have their own selfish agendas, and humans are going to human, as we say. But taking it simply from what someone feels as opposed to what the facts and information shows you is where a lot of folks go wrong. And it sometimes feels so exhausting. It feels very, very exhausting to have to constantly go up against this, because especially as women in this community, again, we still have to deal with a lot of the misogyny. We still have to deal with the deference to male voices, the deference to patriarchy, the deference to whiteness. And it makes us feel invisible at times. Of course, we are not going to allow ourselves to be visible, regardless of how many bitches we're called, or even when folks call us queens, but then the moment we don't do what they want, all of a sudden we're a bitch. No matter how much of that we go through, we are not going to, we will not be silenced. So, right. I mean, there are so many different layers, like you said, layers of shit that are, that we do unpack just as human beings, coming from marginalized demographics and marginalized communities. And it's not going to be perfect. It's not something that resolves itself overnight, but doesn't have to be as complicated as people think it is. So
I think also too, because like dealing with generational trauma, and I get that. Like I totally do, because as someone that has dealt with trauma, and it affects you in ways that you're not even 100% aware of. And it can do projection, and if you have, and I'm just an individual with my own personal traumas. If you have a whole community of people that have generational trauma, and it's not only just the history, it also affects the brains in utero and all that type of stuff, and on and go. There's like science that shows this.
Yeah.
So that, and not knowing, and then let's add that you have a lack to access to education, you have a lack of access to opportunity, and then you have a whole other group of society that, even though you're just a human being, just like me, that just because you have more melanin, and we've been taught whatever bullshit that was taught. That you not only have to fight that, you also have to, and that's going to bring up all those feelings, and you just want to exist. Like, I want to go to work, I want to raise my family, I don't want to have to deal with the white man bullshit anymore. Like, and I understand that need for safety. Because it's so hard to feel safe, especially when you're constantly in a state of stress. And every little bit of safety you get is what you get. But I also understand that, but just because you feel safe doesn't mean that's not trust. That's not equality. Safe is not equality. Safe is not having this. That doesn't make, because if you're saying I have mine, fuck everybody else in my community,
right? Then
you're saying to them,
Clarence
let me
Thomas,
have mine. I don't want to. You don't get to have yours.
Clarence Thomas. Clarence Thomas. Can I say that name again? Clarence Thomas, who benefited from affirmative action, early on in his legal career as well as in college.
Yep. Yeah, I
Um,
watched a documentary on. No, I listened
mhm,
to a Behind the Bastards episode about him, and I lost my shit.
mhm,
Like I was like, "Oh my god."
mhm. Yep. We can name those folks.
Yep.
We can name some of them who have been absolutely antithetical to what it means to be. And I just remember when he was being confirmed, and so many people trashed Anita Hill, and there were other Black folks who and in my teenage and young mind, I bought into the, well, she's just trying to bring down a Black man, even though I knew that he was appointed by George H.W. Bush, that he was very much a conservative, and that he really did not have Black folks, he really did not have the betterment of Black folks in mind. But
No.
I still, I still was of that, not really understanding, about what it took for her to actually, come out and talk about what happened to her as a result of this disgusting individual, because he's disgusting.
He is disgusting. I mean, like
Yeah.
he's just a piece of shit. He's a terrible
Yeah.
person.
Yeah.
like, and I think, but like also like he did the same thing. He did like, he was, he's very intelligent, got himself all the way to law school. And he went to a liberal school. He guess what? There was racism there.
Mm-hmm.
And then it totally flipped him. And then he realized, if I do a grift and if I start aligning with the lovers that eat my face party, they eat your
Mm-hmm.
face, he realized that if I toe the line, I get benefits and I can own the libs, and I will go against people of my own community and not let them have rights, and go along and you you would think that, like, but then you understand that, like, he didn't do it. He didn't like raise to prominence because he was like a Black man, fighting against the system. He was the system,
Mm-hmm.
and that's
Right.
the thing that's fucked.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And I have to think, like, if you're sitting there going like, why, dude? Like, hey, why are you doing it to yourself? But also it's that thing about, like, I'm not excusing it. Keep in mind, I'm not
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
excusing it because it's fucking stupid and disgusting. And I'm like, I get it, but also yuck. I get it because generational trauma.
Mm-hmm.
I want to be safe. If I toe the line, and if I join their group, if I join the lovers are going to eat my face party, I'm safe.
Yeah. No,
And
you're
he
never
still
gonna
hasn't
be
been
safe.
eaten
Yeah.
because he has enough money and power that he's not going to face the same oppression as the average Black person,
Mm-hmm.
and that's the sad part,
Yeah.
you know.
Yeah. You do have some Negroes who will assimilate enough to escape, or they think they, yeah, there have been some, but it's just, oh boy, that's
That's
a
a whole different can of
whole
worms.
but
But
yeah.
you know
Mhm.
it, like you understand it, but it's still gross. Like, it's the same when I
Absolutely.
see queer people, like when I see like queers for Trump. I'm like, what the
Yeah.
fuck you doing?
A log
What are
cabin
you
Republican is
doing?
like, what in the world?
I'm like,
That is, yeah,
no,
that's
no.
crazy.
It's
Yeah.
the same thing, same reaction. What the fuck? What are you
Yeah.
doing?
Yes. Absolutely.
So, so with the work you've been doing and getting that education, have you found that people, even within the Black atheist movement, do you find that they want to do more, like even going into like Black churches, going into communities and wanting to give them that education and wanting them to have more access to their own history, and wanting to not so much like deconvert people, but be like, hey, by the way, do you know how Christianity was used against us, and like go into those conversations so they can give people more of a broader spectrum of
So one
existence.
of the things that I'm very, very proud that we have done at Black Nonbelievers as an organization is we have never simply just stayed insular to the secular community. Um, any opportunity that I've had to connect with Black individuals or entities that have wanted to speak with us or hear from us, I make sure that we take advantage of those. Like, I am
Mm,
very, very proud of the fact that that BN is a part of the National Museum for African American Culture. And we represent, and we have provided the foundation for what Black non-religious perspectives, and also what Black
mm,
atheists and what community building looks like for a larger institution.
mhm,
And we have participated in a number of events where we table out in the general public, whether we are in our respective cities or respective areas. Even outside of that, we do tend to we try to respond to every call that we
mhm.
have. We have participated in a number of research studies, focus groups, interviews. As a matter of fact, today, and I appreciate, shout out to Kelly, shout out to Ricky Callwood in the U.S. Virgin Islands, shout out to Edith, the co-host of
Mm.
ITC,
I
who,
love Ricky.
yes,
I love
Ricky is so
him.
amazing. Yes,
I miss him.
yes, and there was a Spelman
Mhm,
College student. For Spelman is a historically Black college university here in Atlanta. She reached out. She did some research, found BN, and then found me, reached out to me on Instagram and told me about her class project that she was doing. And I appreciate the folks who helped, who got together today to speak with her and answer her questions for her project about a perspective that she isn't not she's familiar with, but not necessarily fully aware of, and that she's getting a better understanding of in her major as an early childhood education or elementary education. So reaching out to folks who respond to us, who want to hear from us for the purposes of their research, for their projects.
mhm,
Black Non-Believers has done that, and we've done this since the beginning. We've been featured in a number of, for those who aren't familiar, we've been featured in CNN. We've been featured
mhm,
in a number of major news outlets, CBS Sunday Morning,
mhm.
National Geographic. There's a whole list of folks who have reached out to us. And does that, yes, and also I've spoken at Morehouse College before. We've connected with other like Black college students. So we do
Mhm.
have we make ourselves available, or I make sure that we make ourselves available to whoever wants to hear from us. And yes, we do reach out and go to places where we might not necessarily be as visible, and it can be an intimidating experience to
Mhm.
have. But I contend that it's important for us to do it because we have to test our boundaries on how
Right.
we connect and how we engage people, because it is important. We cannot, I mean, we don't have to simply argue with people, but we do have to become comfortable with having uncomfortable and objective dialogue and
Right.
discussions, even amongst each other. So there are a lot of Black atheists that I know and who I work with who are very passionate about it. But there are also a lot of Black atheists who just want that space to be. They want that space to, just to understand that, for one, there are more of us out here, and that there are issues that are affecting us specifically that we can best try to get a handle on and put forward. So I would say that it's that also is very multi-layered,
Mhm.
because these are things that we have done within our going on 15 years as an organization. The more I think about it, I think about, we do have an incredible body of work, and an incredible body that we are,
Mhm.
that we have achieved and accomplished that others have not done. Now, of
Right.
course, is there always work to be done? Sure. And I'm very proud of our collaborative work. Would we, and I, as a product of public school education, my kids are products of public school education. I
Mhm.
really do think that there are many in your metro areas that do a good job of, developing children, in certain skills. It's when they get to church
Yeah.
though, where sometimes that goes out the window. So
Right.
how we continue to foster that with, as they are in school and also within our homes and in our respective other, communities and places that we frequent, how we keep that going, is always the question. And I realized that because my own childhood was so multi-layered, and so to me, being unorthodox and being someone who thought differently was almost sort of normal. It was a thing where, um I was exposed to things as a child that, no one should have been. And I think even in your fundamental religious households, there was a lot of abuse and stuff that people were exposed to,
Yeah.
that they were taught was, or they either ignored it, you didn't talk about it, or it was just, you weren't allowed to address it. So, for me, and I was talking with my younger brother some years ago. We were talking about how fortunate we were that even with the issues that we have with our mother, the one thing that we take away from it was our ability to be developed as critical thinkers
Right.
and to be outspoken. So it's like normal. it's normal to
Right.
me, but I contend that it can be a norm for so many other people. Even though the journey can be difficult, it can be a norm that folks can let go of the harm, can work through,
Right.
the harm that they have, that they have endured, and be more liberated and be what is there's no normal, right?
No.
But
Mhm.
I think working alongside, like the education system, which of course this administration is trying to get rid of. So they're trying to make it harder for folks like us to, to sort of, they're trying to force it into what we, and to what we, to what we have to do in our own homes, which is what a
Mhm.
lot of Black families had to do during, there are some Black folks who still contend that separate Black communities were better,
Mhm.
because you had more support within Black communities. You had thriving Black businesses. You had thriving Black, there was somewhat, and I'm not going to say it's perfect, but you had this sense of, well, who's going to have us but us? So,
Mhm.
that is a part of the resilience that I said that Black folks have always had.
Right.
Um, but just, and we do want to make sure that everyone is aware of the totality of
Mhm.
what makes up the Black community, because there
Right.
is a sense of that is lost. And so that is
Mhm.
also what we do at BN, is imparting that information, that education, as well as that visibility. So there
Right.
are, again, it's so much multi-layered, more than I think I can absolutely articulate, but that we can show that we have demonstrated over the years.
Right. So, um, so in the 15 years have you has the issues been the same since you first started, or have they shifted as the country has shifted? Like, is it like what it has the journey been, and where the focus is shifted as for BN?
So I will say that our focus has always been on definitely increasing the visibility for Black folks who no longer who are no longer religious, atheist, humanist, agnostic.
Mhm.
We've always had a focus on justice, like racial justice, economic justice, LGBTQ, LGBTQ rights,
Mm.
women's empowerment. Hence the now what has shifted, especially intentionally for us, is having more women amongst our leadership ranks. Again, shout out to Cynthia, who runs our Chicago group. Shout out to
Mhm.
Kelly, who runs our Detroit group. Shout out to Tina, who runs our Charlotte group. Shout out to Deanna Williams, who's on our board. And shout out to all of the women who now participate with Black non-believers, especially because they see women at the forefront, women in leadership. That has been a shift because and unfortunately we still do see among the larger secular community still a deference to white male voices, but I do see that has changed, and that there is more content. I remember when Candace Gorham, shout out to Candace Gorham, who is the board president, who is the president of the American Humanist Association. I remember when and she's been at a few fall excursions, RFR fall excursions,
Mhm.
along with myself, right?
Mhm.
When she reached out to us when she was working on her first book, the Ebony Exodus Project,
Mhm.
her anthology on why Black women are leaving religion. We helped her compile and I did an interview for her as well. I'm in her book. And so we have been a part of helping people grow their content base. She's now
Mhm.
authored 2 books. This is her
Yeah,
second book. Mm-hmm.
she talked about grief at the last
Yes,
excursion. She did a whole presentation on grief and talking about her new book about,
right.
her own relationship with her father and that whole journey. So I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you. I
Right.
just
No, but I'm
yeah.
just saying that I remember back first when I got, when I was involved,
Mm,
and even from that part, we have been
mm,
instrumental in gathering folks again for research purposes, whether that results in written literature, whether that results in, like I said, focus groups or statistics
mhm,
and data. We've done that since the beginning. And we
mhm,
continue to do that. We continue to make ourselves available for that because
mhm,
we see that even according to Pew Research, the not, even though Blacks are still among the highest, believers or still among the highest religious demographic, that number has decreased over the years.
mhm,
And that is a result. And I remember back in 2019 when the folks at Pew Research, I shout out to Bashir Muhammad. I think he still might be at Pew Research. We were both a part of the documentary that the National Museum for African American Culture produced.
mhm,
He and Pew Research wanted to know how they could get more Black atheists and non-religious participants for their Pew Research study. And
mhm.
that is directly due to the work that we have done at Black Non-Believers. So it's
Right.
it's more than just us hanging out and having a good time, party and bullshit. And we love to do that, right? We want
Right. We all like
everybody
to
to
do
be
that.
able to do that. We want everybody to be able to party and bullshit in their unapologetic atheist selves. But
Mhm,
yes, when it comes
mhm,
to, again, what that looks like statistically, what that looks like on a societal level, we have been able to provide that information and that insight for researchers, for authors, for documentarians, for folks who are looking for more Black non-religious voices. Being has been that resource for them.
mhm.
And I am just very, very proud of that. And sometimes I think about it like, are we doing enough? And I'm like, well, hell yeah, we're doing a lot, right?
Right.
We're doing a
Right.
hell of a lot. But it's
Mhm,
sometimes it feels so surreal, like when it comes to like how like the folks that we have seen come up through the ranks,
mhm,
as well as and those who have stayed and remained dedicated to the work and dedicated beyond what could be just in it for them, that has been that's been a roller coaster ride that
I'm sure.
has been, from the beginning to, and that's something that hasn't changed, right?
Yeah.
People who have let go of religion and the God concept, but they still
Mm-hmm.
hold on to indoctrinations. They still hold on to societal norms and stigmas, and they bring it into a community of folks who question damn near everything.
Right.
Folks who are
Mm-hmm.
going to be like, hold up, this doesn't sound right. Can we talk more about this? Can we dress this down? Can we hash this out? And if you are not ready to have those conversations, if you are not ready to even learn more while you are doing this, then this may not be the community for you. And so I've definitely seen a lot of that over the years. But I do love the fact that not just within our community, but even outside of our community, people know who we are. People we are easily accessible to those who are looking for information, and not just information, but hearing our voices in real time, seeing us in real time, because that is very, very important. People need to hear from us, not just me,
Right.
us. I will tell, I will, real quick, back in 2013, Atlanta Interfaith Broadcasting did a segment on their channel called AIB Presents, and it was called, and the video is on our channel. Like I said, it's dated now, but it was still a very, very good production. It's called Atheists in the Bible Belt. The producers of the series, two of them were atheists. They reached out to us on our website, and they told me that when I spoke with them, they told me that when they reached out to almost all, in fact, all of the other local secular organizations, they turned them down because they were concerned about how this interfaith channel was going to portray non-believers or atheists.
Oh, okay. Yep.
They turned them down. So we didn't turn them down. So they ended up, we scheduled a date for members to come in, do interviews, on camera interviews at their building, which was in Midtown Atlanta. I'm not sure if they're still there, but they also came to one of our meetings and recorded it. And when I tell you that it was just so fantastic. It turned out very, very well. And again, because the producers of the show were atheists, so they were very, very very, very careful to make sure that their perspective was not going to be misrepresented. So it was, these are the sorts of things that and I say I'm proud of our members, because I remember the first time we were contacted about doing an interview. It was for a film graduate student. She wanted to do a short and speak to Black atheists. When I pulled the group to try to get us together, there were so many folks who were afraid. They were afraid to be seen on camera, some of whom were still in the closet. But we managed to get folks together for, to do an interview. And this was a young Black girl. I think she was like agnostic. But she, in the short, she put in some awful statements that Steve Harvey made, which made people more sympathetic to us. So I appreciate the fact that even though there have been folks who want to combat us, most of the folks who have reached out to us they want to hear our stories. They want to hear our voices. They want to know where we're coming from, because they realize that things are changing. They realize that the dynamics in Black communities are changing. And I want folks to know what that looks like.
Right.
I want our community to know what that looks like. I want folks in Black communities to know what that looks like. And, just folks overall worldwide to know what that looks like and what that work looks like in the US and in other countries, and across the African diaspora, because there's a lot of good work that is being done across the globe that that we are a part of. And I am just, like I said, I'm grateful to have lent my my hands to it, because so yeah, it's just been very, very like I said, there is now a body of work that we have, that we have contributed to. And I always want to make sure that as many voices get heard as possible. And that has definitely continued over the years. And I will say that support for BN has increased. We can always use more. We always need more. Yes, yes. We always need more to do
Everybody
the work
needs
we
money.
do.
Give some money.
Yeah. But
and it takes a village, as they say. And because you can't do it alone. It takes money, it takes time, it takes volunteers, it takes people that are passionate, because like you started it, but you're not it. Like you are, you're in a leadership role and you want to bring up people. Like Kelly told me, like she was like, if it wasn't for Mandisa, I wouldn't be doing so much activism now. And I'm like, yeah, because you get inspired. They're like, you see someone is making a difference and it's something you're passionate about, and you're very encouraging to other people, because you can't do it by yourself. It's exhausting. Right. Like I volunteer people. I don't want to do things on my own. Like I'm like, sure, you want to do that? Sure, go ahead. Go. I'll help you.
The one thing, and I know Kelly and Cynthia in particular can attest to this, right? Is
my girls,
that yes. So many of them, I am like, you got to put your money where your mouth is. We can talk the talk all day long, but are you going to walk the walk? And are you going to walk that talk? And I will hold your feet to the fire for that, because it is something that we need to do, and you have support in doing it. And it can be intimidating it can be intimidating, but remaining, because I remember what it was like for me. You couldn't have told me that we were going to be here all these years later, because I was thinking about how this was going to affect my job at the time, how this was going to impact my relationships with people. And what I realized is that even though I've lost some folks along the way, some have come back because the consistency remained. People saw how dedicated, that we were. And it does take sacrifice, not like literal human sacrifice, but you have to be willing to do things you may not have necessarily done before. And sometimes that means you got to get up at a time that you didn't want to get up. You have to sometimes get out of bed when you don't want to. Sometimes you gotta, sometimes you gotta do, like, I gotta do this little thing. Yes, you do.
Yep.
If it is going to be great, you have to make it that way. And so it has to be a labor of love until we get it to a place where we can work and get it to a place where it does. And it is benefited. Like Cynthia said, right? I remember when I asked her to speak at the Women of Color Beyond Belief conference in 2021. We had worked together on, I remember she was on nonprofits, and, we had done a few things together with Your Friendly Neighborhood Atheist. And remembering that she was in Chicago, asked her to speak at the Women of Color Beyond Belief conference. And then I had to remind her, sorry, Cynthia, I'm putting you on blast right now. I had to remind her to audition for Godless Gospel, because that we were working on Godless Gospel at the time. We're still working on it, right? But I'm like, send your audition for Godless Gospel. So these are the things that, and then Candace is also a member of Godless Gospel. So it's like, these are the things that with so many people are like, well, I don't know how you do it, Mandisa. I'm like, I guess because sometimes I just do. But, also, it's like, hey, sometimes you got to do what you got to do. And having come from, and I also credit my upbringing of, like I've said this before, I come from the projects. I'm from the hood in New York. There is a life experience that comes along with being me that, it's like you do what you got to do, and I think there are some people who may not understand that. But for some of us, we have to, it's either we sink or swim. And some of us have to learn as we go. And that doesn't have to be the default, but you have to know how to do it. And I can appreciate that folks can, see how far being has come and also learn more about me and the person that I am, but also understand what's behind it, what inspires me, and also, again, how I think that regardless of what I've been through, there are still things that we can do and that we should be doing to improve ourselves and improve ourselves together. And especially standing behind my sisters, my secular sisters, as much as possible. And just all of the secular folks in the community. So, I mean, it's just, wow, it's a lot. I hope I didn't go too off on a tangent, but
No,
it's
fine.
just,
I love listening to
these
you, Doc. You're
are,
fine.
yeah. So these are the motivating factors of how and I still learn how to take better care of myself in the
Yeah,
meantime, because I cannot be everything to everybody. But I do try as much as I can to take care of myself in being someone who is visible in this community and having a responsibility to help address and again resolve things that is in our that is within our capability to do. It's like the Nike slogan, just do it. Sometimes you
right.
got
And
to
I
just
think,
do
yeah,
it. So yeah.
and also like it's like what you're talking about, like learning to find balance, like because you like, especially in bidding, you get like you want to do everything because you want to help, and you get motivated because you see the response and it's usually positive, and but you also get altruistic fatigue. Like,
Yes. Oh
yes, and
boy.
your emotional currency runs out.
It does.
and
It can.
and
Hmm.
it's a matter, like I've taken a step back, but I'm starting, once my health issues are figured out, I'm sliding in, to help Jason Friedman with his new
Sure.
org, because like that's, and I have a skill set I can bring, but I used to do a lot, and then I realized that I was like, I'm not spending time with my as much time with my family. Like, so on weekends, I don't do crap unless like I have to do right now, but that's going to shift. But I don't do anything. Like during the week, this is when I can go into groups and do my show and connect or whatever. On the weekends, unless I absolutely love you, I'm not showing up. Like,
Right. And I will say that there are many people in this community who have seen my kids grow up.
mm-hmm.
When I got started, my youngest, Miles, who is 16 now, he was 2 going on 3.
Oh.
And so
Cute little
many
monkey butt.
people, yeah. So and my son Isaiah was like 5. So, they were young. And my daughter was she was like a teenage, she was still in middle school and whatnot. But I have and because I grew up with an activist lens and going to different events, some of my kids have come with, a lot of people have met my kids in person. um so they know that my family is always going to be important to me no matter what.
Mm-hmm.
um and my kids would want to go until one day they were just like, we're good. They just kind of want to be teenagers, right? So, or
Yep,
and
yep.
and just, yeah. And I that there had to be that space for them, and to always figure out what is best for them even while they are young. And that goes into the parenting thing. And there are times where sometimes I'm just, sometimes we're like, fuck them kids. It's okay to say that right now. It's like, fuck
I
these kids.
listen. I
But
told my kids. I told my kids,
like
I love you, but fuck you.
yeah,
Also,
yeah.
I'm like, you're my favorite parasites. So, like,
Yeah. Right. Yes. Yes. So I
yeah.
just, it's actually fun for me to share these experiences with community members, for those of us who have families, and for some who have inherited families, like who inherited children, like Cynthia did.
Mm-hmm.
So we give each other advice. We definitely we uphold each other as much as we
Mm-hmm.
can, as a community and as individuals, because especially for those of us who are more in the public eye, we need that support. So
Mm-hmm.
I try to do as much as I can to just try to decompress as much as, and it has to be flexible. I don't do like the whole 9 to 5 thing. I find my joy in space wherever I can.
Right.
And I do incorporate the things that I love into the activism, right? I think when we do a lot of the activities that we find enjoyable and that others find enjoyable, that it doesn't make it feel like work. And when you know that everyone is having a good time, but that you also are taking others folks suggestions and input into consideration, it makes it more of a community experience. So yes, it is definitely just, again, it's a whole bunch that
Yeah, it is.
yeah.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So, what? So I asked you what has changed, and I'm going to ask you this question, and then I have to go to the bathroom because per my podcast, I have to go at least once. So, again, but I can hear you. What problems are you seeing that you would like to be addressed, specifically, that you would like people to know about? And you're going to answer that question while I go to the bathroom. I'll be back in a minute.
Okay, so I am taking sort of like host duties from Helen, and a lot of the problems that I see are, one of the things that I know can and should improve are the way folks support our organizations, right? There are a lot of folks who are passionate. There are a lot of folks who need the resources that many of our organizations provide, whether they are the organizations that are fighting, in courts like religion and government or state church separation issues, whether they are community service organizations, whether they are multifaceted organizations like Black NonBelievers, who does so much. There's also a tendency to overlook supporting organizations that are led by women and that are led by Black women. And that part of that is due to our unrecognized tendency to defer to men and particularly white men as authorities. And I think that, and even though people appreciate our visibility, they appreciate our influence, that doesn't always equal the support that we need. And so when we ask for your donations and when we ask for your support, it is because we need it, and it doesn't take much. I think it's important for people to understand that even just a few dollars helps the work that we do. And we rolled out our membership program this year. Shout out to everyone who became an official member, including John and KC, their household members, and Dan Barker from the Freedom for Religion Foundation. He became a lifetime member.
I didn't even know you had a membership program. Why am I not a part of it?
We now have a membership program. I think
well, fuck.
I'm not gonna change my cover photo just yet because it's so nice. It's from Grant Cayman from CCon, but we now do for as little as $20 a year, depending on whether you're a student, a senior, or what have you. You can become an official BN member, and you receive your official BN membership card. As the person who does all the things at BN, I'm in my office and I do this myself. I don't do all of our graphic design ourselves. We have help with that, but these are our membership cards that we are giving to official members. For those who do the annual memberships, though, y'all will receive updated memberships once you renew. Lifetime members have your permanent card, and you can become a lifetime member for just $500. And if you want to be flexible with that, we work with you. The one thing that I always try to keep in mind is affordability for folks. The ability for people to support when they can and how they can. And if you have if you have means, or if you have connections to folks who who can support us, to borrow from my favorite sort of like white neo soul group. I love this group called Moonchild. If you've never heard of them, please go look up their music. They're fantastic. They are your quintessential allies, if you will. They definitely, they have a phrase called "spend your privilege." It sounds simple, right? It sounds simple as hell. But
Mm-hmm.
for people who want to know what they can do and what they can do to help other marginalized groups and organizations that support marginalized groups, spend your privilege. And that isn't just necessarily for Black organizations. They are for other secular
Mm-hmm.
organizations. They are for folks like you, Helen, and the other folks that are help raising money for individuals. And I still am very, very happy to have been a part of helping raise that money because, I think that is absolutely, that is mutual aid. That is
Right.
what we should be doing to help each other, right? So spend your privilege. Even just a few dollars goes a long way. And definitely spreading the word, sharing it, helping people to understand that you can support an organization like Black NonBelievers, and you don't have to be Black to do so. So,
Right.
and also, understanding why we center Black voices, but also we work alongside others. So, I those are some of the challenges that we see. I also see again the deference to just overall, and I'm going to say this because there has been shade thrown at BN, there's been shade thrown at women in this community, the deference to the pastoral voices or the ex-pastoral voices, those voices of authority, those who sound good, and because they're a man, they will automatically get more visibility because of people's conditioning and of how they and of listening to male voices and people taking
Yep.
advantage of that. So that is definitely an ongoing problem that I see. And I appreciate all of the men in the community who are instrumental in uplifting the voices of women and the further marginalized LGBTQ folks. Same as how we do.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's we also see opportunists. There are going to be opportunists in every community.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
And there are opportunists who bring a lot of their indoctrination with them. They want to bring it in again into a community where folks will challenge and folks will question. And if you are not ready to address those issues, then guess what? You will be chewed up and spit out
Oh
eventually.
yeah.
So that's just a fair warning. That is a fair warning. And so, we absolutely must be careful with some of these folks. And so and also do like I said, ask questions. Ask questions, want to learn more. Don't, I mean, you can, it's important to see
Yep.
things from your perspective. Yes, new crowd saying,
No secret.
whoa, Lord.
Yep. Yep. Yep.
Whoa,
Yep. Yeah.
oh, that
Thank
was
you,
fire.
Casey.
That
Put
was
that on a fucking
fire. Oh
t-shirt.
my gosh.
God.
Absolutely. And I think it's
Exactly.
also important for us to understand that. And I say this having been a manager. I have management experience, customer service experience. And I bring my experience and my practical skills into this community to say, and also again, my lived experience of and especially that of not taking shit from people for too long, is that sometimes some folks gotta go. As much as we want to help people, as much as if people can demonstrate that they are willing to be held responsible and accountable and
Right.
work with people, then that's fine. We don't just simply throw those folks away. But when there are folks who are doing this on purpose and some of them think they get to a certain place where they can just start, crapping on people, then guess what? Bye bye. You can take yourself out, and you're the trash taking yourself out. And I think that's important for us to acknowledge that we're not saviors. We can't save people. We try to help people, but we can't save them. People have to want to know, and that's why there's not going to be a bunch of millionaires in our communities, because we're not selling a fake cure, right? We're not selling, this
Mhm.
idea that, well, if you listen to me, you're gonna just, first of all, I don't even sell the idea that the moment that you let go of religion, that your life is just gonna be great. It's not.
No.
That's not always going to be the thing. It is constant work. It's constant work, and it takes consistent evaluation, looking to your peers, looking to people who are experts in their respective areas, and to get that help, and to allow yourself to be
Mhm.
vulnerable. There are some folks who will not allow themselves to be so vulnerable to the point where they admit that they've made a mistake.
Right.
And
And
that is something that we have to confront in our community as well. And it's just, I'm sorry, go ahead, Kelly.
I was going to say that we know people fuck up. We do. And I have an accountability kink. If you apologize and you follow it up with action and you show like, hey, I fucked up. I said this, I did this, I said this about it, and you do it because everybody in the community, we all talk to each other, motherfuckers. We're all in the
Hmm.
same thing. But
Yeah.
like we're all good. We all talk to each other. We all know what's going down. So, or somebody knows that you know what's going down, and we'll tell each other like, don't work with this person, don't work with this person, because we care about each other, and we
Right.
want, and because we are a bunch of people that want the facts to be true and to have more of that humanist
Right. Now,
perspective, that we're
yes.
all just people.
Now
And if
have
someone fucks up, there
mhm,
is a path to forgiveness and
there
being part of
should
the
be.
community again.
And so, yeah, to
But it has to
recognition.
show, like, you have to be accountable and own your shit, and
Yeah.
then work to heal the people that were harmed.
Right. And now have some folks done that type of stuff
Yeah.
maliciously? Yes,
Yes.
they have. And I unfortunately experienced that. And, if I may, I would like to talk about how you and I, talked, and how
Mhm.
we talked
Yeah.
through, misconceptions and misunderstandings
Mhm.
surrounding circumstances, and
Mhm.
surrounding the issue.
Right.
And I am always willing to do that.
Yep.
There is, especially if we can do so in a way where people come away with a better understanding, and that folks are feeling good, not just me feeling good, but everyone feels good, that they can walk away, or at least leave the conversation,
Mhm.
feeling like folks have been affirmed, they've been heard,
Mhm.
they're listening, and that there is an opportunity to work together and do better. Unfortunately, that, again, there are some folks who bring that religion with them, where division is key, even though they say they're not causing, the fact that, the folks who say they're not about drama, they're the first ones that are about drama. Yes, on your
Well,
shit. Yes. Hmm.
my thing is that I don't like drama. It just follows me. Somehow I get embroiled in drama. Like I try so hard, and then I'm like, fuck.
Yes. Yeah.
Like that's a difference. Like I'm getting involved because I care, but I don't bring drama. I try not to. That, there's a difference between being involved in drama and then bringing it, because then, and I say like maybe I will someday. I don't know.
Right.
Because we're all guilty of it, but it's the
Yeah.
idea like, oh fuck.
Right.
Oh fuck.
Right. Yeah. And I mean, I think for some of us who have just seen it all around us, some of us can avoid certain things, and there are some things where we look and we're like, ooh,
Yeah.
and I'm like, okay. And then sometimes you just sit back and, like you said, we drink our tea, we drink our wine, and we just or we look at our invisible watches and be like, wait for it.
It's right.
I am, and now Cynthia and Kelly can tell you, I'm like, I am behind the scenes. When I see something, I may not necessarily say anything publicly, or if I experience something, I may not necessarily say it publicly, but I do tend to have a read on people. I'm not a psychic, or anything like that, but you don't have
Right.
to be a psychic. You just have to be, you have to be skilled in human behavior and human interactions.
Yes.
And part of that is having grown up under an undiagnosed someone with an undiagnosed mental illness, an underdiagnosed, and
Right.
definitely untreated. And so, and with the upbringing that I had, I was able to kind of self, I was able to self, motivate out of that,
Right.
and take, and take what I learned against and what I experienced, and also and trust what I can see, and trust my instincts, and trust my wisdom. And everyone doesn't get it right away. It happens, but I just, it's like, it's interesting because I say I look like I'm aging backwards. Next year I'll be 50.
Mhm.
And sometimes I feel like I was old before my time. It
Yeah, I have
really,
that feeling.
yeah, it really does feel that way. But, and maybe in some ways, like as I get older, I'm maybe sort of making up for lost time because
Mhm.
of the fact that, it's just like, wow, when you think about all of it. But I think it's important for us, especially as women, and those of us who are um more visible, and who are in leadership, and who are content creators, to continue to support each other as much as we can, work with the people who we know love and support
Mhm.
us. And when we see folks that are not on the up and up, yeah,
Right.
we make sure we keep an eye out. We make sure that we are looking out for each other. And if they do something, to it's not that we're doing it to them, they do it to ourselves. So yeah, so it's a lot, but you know what? Hey, we're still here doing it, and some folks, they need to be careful of the bridges they burn.
That's I'm always like, why you dying on this hill, man? Why you burning that bridge? Because if you're burning it down, drowning it, like we're not the hooks aren't even there anymore. Like
Mhm.
it's like then you're gonna find yourself afloat. You're gonna find that the community that you wanted to cultivate won't allow you in anymore because you're causing too much harm. And
Mhm.
we're over here going like, hey man, we're over here on the social justice side, we have to take care of each other because that's all we got.
Yeah, we all
I'm
we
like,
got.
and
Yeah.
yeah, and it's
Mhm.
like we have to progress because if we fight each other, then you're losing the thread.
Right.
you've
And
you've lost
sometimes we have to fight. I mean,
yeah.
sometimes we have to work things out, right?
Like work, I have no problem
We
with that. I'm talking about like
Right, yeah.
you are
Mhm.
going against the community in
Right,
such
yeah,
a
that
way,
part, yes.
yeah,
Mhm.
that
There,
that
yes.
healing is,
There
if
is
it's
a
possible, so much work.
right.
Or it might never be healed. And also too, a lot with traumatized people, they know that they fucked up, but they have no idea because they never learned how to own their shit
Yeah.
and what an apology, a real apology looks like, and how
Mhm.
that works, and what you do to make sure that you are owning your shit and walking your walk and talking your talk. Like
Mhm.
that's why I have an accountability kink. I'm like, I like that. Now you're,
Yeah.
yes, yeah, cool. I'm turned on. Wonderful. Like, yay. Like makes me feel good. And that's my thing, because and I think it's like for my own trauma, I had a hard time doing that when I was younger because of my own, mental illness
Yeah.
and my trauma and stuff like that. So when you see it, it's fucking fantastic because you're
Yes.
like, oh my God, like this motherfucker got it,
Yes.
you know?
Yeah. So yeah, I love to see it. I love connecting with all of the folks who are truly about that life, as we say. When
Mhm.
I recognize that you are about that life, then then I could rock with you,
Right.
and everybody ain't about this life. And so, it is important that we can, and if you want to be, and when you and there are ways for us, again, to help each other, and it doesn't have to be painful. Sometimes it may feel painful, but it's really, really important for us to, and sometimes it is painful to
Yeah,
let those people go
I
who
know.
we know are not doing well for themselves and for others. It's not a thing that we take pleasure in, but sometimes when folks have hurt others and they refuse to be responsible, then you're like, oh well, you
Oh,
know?
well, like, sorry for you. Like,
Yeah.
you should have
Well,
been over here standing with us, man. We could have been standing
yeah.
right beside you.
Yeah.
And
I'll
and, and you dumb fucked up.
we'll smoke on that pack, as they say.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Like, okay, I'm like, you want to burn everything thing done. I'm like, I hope you enjoy the fire.
Mhm.
Like, you
Yeah.
know, because
So
it's one that, and I think that I think that because we want to be, believe in the angels of people's, believe in the angels of their better nature. We
mhm.
want that. Um, we're at the beginning, we'll let some stuff slide,
Yes.
but then as you pointed out, like if you get good at reading people, you're like, this isn't gonna go well.
Mhm.
Like this person isn't being genuine. Like, like they're talking the talk, but it's not, you can get that it's not sincere,
Right.
or they try to do things to become clickbait, or they try to push
Cloud
themselves into
chasing.
places,
They're cloud
and they say, well,
chasing.
I'm this person, so I deserve something.
Yes.
And it's like, no, you
Yes.
don't. Mm.
I'm like, oh my
Yeah.
gosh.
So,
But yeah, oh boy.
yeah, and it's just the way it's just the way it is in this community, and I'm not saying y'all um that we're making excuses for this, but it just, because in this community, it's in any community, these are just people being fucking people.
Right.
Like, we all have like I don't know if I would call it an agenda, but I have a plan for how I do my channel. You have a plan how you want Black Non-Believers one, and as a public person, as an activist, yeah, you want to influence people, but you're honest. And like you can tell, like, especially especially in this community, because we all know each other.
Yeah.
And those of us that are in marginalized groups, we're very protective of each other. We're like,
Right.
I'm like, I don't know that you should be talking to that person because they're kind of an ass, because of the trauma of that.
Yes. The one
Yeah.
thing I always I try to do a rule of thumb of proceed with caution
Yep.
with folks, because just because something happened to me doesn't necessarily mean it could happen to you, even though as human beings, and we tend to be as patterned as we are, it will happen,
Yeah.
right? But
Yeah.
I do try to be that person who is just like, look, maybe this might not be the case with you, but here's what I would just proceed with caution. But
Right.
oftentimes when that comes across my desk, so to speak, people have already seen it, and this
Mm-hmm.
has been because, again, I don't kick dirt on people's names. I try to stay
No.
away from doing that. And I think most of us do as well. We may have our chatter behind the scenes, like there's always going to
I'll
be,
talk shit about you.
yeah, and
I'll
there's
get behind
always
your
going to
back.
be that, the conversations that me, Kelly, Cynthia, and the folks at BM will have, right? And there's just nothing that anyone can do about that. We're always going to have that we're always going to have that. But there are certain things, and it doesn't necessarily mean we're hiding things, but sometimes you don't have to say anything. You can just kind of let
You
certain
get a
chips
vibe
fall where
real
they
fast.
may. You can let certain chips fall where they may, because
Yep.
you give some folks, you give them enough rope to hang themselves, and that's exactly what happens. So yeah, and
Yeah, it is one of those things that I'm just like, okay, like it's gonna come out, and you'll tell people, like, I don't know about so and so. Like, I go, I didn't have the best experience with this person, or
yeah,
he didn't treat my, like, somebody I know very fairly or whatever. And I'm like, but if you want to work with them, I'm not going to tell you no. Just but have your eyes wide open,
yeah,
because I don't want it to be a surprise, because if you were going to have me work with someone and you knew that there was something about them that wasn't cool, but you wanted me to have the choice to make it, but you didn't warn me. And then I find out later, I'm like, you knew he was an asshole. And you're like, well, I did,
Yeah,
but
I know. It's
but I'm
just
like, but I'm your friend. Why didn't you warn me?
because
Yeah.
sometimes people, when people are in certain feelings,
Yeah.
they may not be ready to receive the
Right.
information,
Right.
and we have to be honest with ourselves about that. So, but yeah, but then every situation is different. It's not
Yeah.
a one size fit all type of type of not every situation is the same. It's not, and every solution is not going to work for everybody. So it is a matter of knowing how to gauge and vet what will work. But I always try to err on the side of kindness and tact.
Right.
That will always win. When you are
Exactly.
kind and tactful, it doesn't necessarily mean that you have to be a doormat, but erring on that side is yeah, right, yeah, but yeah. So there's a lot that especially like I said, that we as you know that we have to continue to, especially as women, that we're still feeling out.
Yeah,
And
and that's the thing that like as a queer person, as a woman, especially a woman, because we're not fighting amongst we're not throwing another woman under the bus,
mhm,
so we get a little bit of advancement,
yeah,
that because everybody has a voice and their story, every story should be told, especially in this community, because we do deal with people that are leaving religion. They hear our stories, um, some like someone that's going through deconstruction might stumble upon my channel and hear me talk to another woman about their experiences and get something out of it, because that's why I'm visible, because there aren't a lot of women in this community. It's getting better.
actually, yeah, there
But
are a
it's
lot of
getting, I'm not
women,
saying
yeah,
like,
uh-huh,
yeah, I'm not,
yeah,
it is getting a lot better. Definitely better than when I entered the community like 8 years ago. You
right,
know,
yes, yes,
when I started looking for, places to go in the atheist and secular community, it was mostly straight white guys. And I'm glad that the landscape is changing, because we need it bad.
yes, and again,
Because people
that
want to
is
see people that look like them, that talk like them, that have similar experiences, because it's so important, and because you're going to connect with the person that looks like you. It's That's why they have, like, Black Santa, because they have little kids that are gonna,
that's
or Black
right.
Jesus, like,
Mhm.
because they can connect with the mythology better, because the they look like me,
Yeah.
and
Mhm.
that's important, to have that connection. It's so
Right.
important.
As much as we would love to have a quote unquote colorblind society, the fact
I
that
don't.
there is still, right,
Mhm.
the fact that I remember years ago, there was a 2020 segment about like the standard of beauty when it comes to women. And of course, they spoke with Susan Taylor, who was the editor in chief of Essence magazine, but there was
Mhm.
also another white woman who was talking about the aesthetic, even for other white women, and how that is a problem for other white women
Yes.
when it comes to this standard and aesthetic of what is considered beauty or what is considered success. And as long as we still defer to whiteness as a measure of either success or a measure of something that we cannot completely identify with, then there will be a need for a Black Santa. There will be a need for Black non-believers. There will be right, because of the fact that, yeah, there are white folks who will get mad when they see progress
Yeah, yeah.
among Black folks or other people of color. Like, how dare how dare you show an interracial couple, or how dare you show this person, in the public eye? Because
Or
that's
a
not,
gay
yeah,
couple that are people of color.
right.
Yeah,
When
like, how dare you do that? And it's like,
Right. When the
because they're
default is
people.
always when the default is always white, and then you have folks who want to push back on that.
Yep.
This is why we do what we do. So I
Mhm.
mean, it's
And
like,
I'm over here like, cool your jets, everybody. Everybody gets pie. Calm down. Like,
yeah,
you'll still get
right,
pie. Like, share some space, man. It's okay.
right. Yes. So
Like nobody's taking anything away from you.
right. They took their germs like in South
I'm
Park.
like,
Oh my
I'm
gosh.
like, share. I'm like, listen, I'm like, I know that, seeing a black Santa just explodes your brain. Like, but like, yeah, you're gonna be fine. I promise.
Mhm.
And I think that's like, when you're when that visibility happens and you can go like, hey, it's okay to have a black Santa. It's okay. And then can I go? But then you can move into conversation like, why does the black Santa offend you? Please explain.
Yeah, that part.
Yeah,
That part
because
right there.
that says something about you. That doesn't say anything about Black Santa.
Right.
That's a problem. That's a you problem.
And there should be more white and other children
yeah,
who see black Santas.
right.
Like
See an Asian Santa. See, pick a Japanese Santa. I don't care. It's Santa. There was a really great scene in American Gods in season 1 with
oh
Easter and
yeah.
all the different Jesuses, and they said everybody wants a God that looks like them, and I'm like, there it is.
Oh, that show was so good.
It was so good.
It was so good.
Neil
It was so
Gaiman's a piece
racy.
of
I
shit, but that
loved
show was
it.
amazing.
Oh my gosh, can I tell you about how Ricky Whittle, who played Shadow Moon, was at Dragon Con in 2021.
Oh, really? Yeah.
Oh my gosh, he looks just as gorgeous as he does.
He's a
in
pretty
person.
man.
Woo!
I would climb that man like a tree.
Oh my gosh. And he's British too, so he has that British accent.
I know.
And when I told him that I was from New York, he did a New York accent. He was hilarious. I loved him. And Candace attended. She was on a panel at Dragon Con that year. If you have never been to Dragon Con, have to come. That's a life goal. Yes, and also it will be taking place during my 50th birthday, so we need to plan something on top of everything that we have planned for 2026.
Okay, are we going to Dragon Con for your 50th?
Yes. We will need to. Yes, we will. We will be doing a big 50th celebration. So let's prepare for that. But that was the year that I was able to get to like the the celebrities thing where they sign autographs and you have to pay for them, but you also get that time with them. And when I saw he was there, I was like, ooh, and oh my gosh, he is so cool and he is just so gorgeous. He is like, if you have never seen him before, he is just, oh my gosh, he is fantastic.
Who is this?
Ricky Whittle is his name. The one who plays Shadow Moon.
We're still talking about the very sexy man.
Yes, we are. Yes. We are staying on this for a second.
I will pull up a picture.
Yes. Ooh.
Honey.
Woo. Goodness gracious.
Let's see images. He pretty. He is. I went without a shirt. Even better.
Yes. He's fine.
Yeah, I'm gonna be a dirty girl for a minute.
Yes.
Oh boy. I'm just saying.
I love that. That is something that, regardless of who you are.
Look at that.
Yes, that is Ricky Whittle. Woo! Goodness gracious.
A fucking tree.
Yes.
Woo!
Yes, indeed. Yes.
He pretty. He's a pretty.
Yes, he is fine. He's so cool too.
I will proudly objectify Amanda sometimes, and I also think he's a very wonderful person, but I can objectify him for 5 seconds.
Yeah, he's fine. He's yes, absolutely.
I'm gonna climb him.
Showed him cakes, baby.
Damn.
Yes.
You got some frosting with that cake? Woo!
Yes. He is fine.
So,
and hey, he's showing it, so it's like, okay.
I'm like, you're showing off your body, man.
Yes.
Yeah.
I love that we can have this kind of fun. I'm gonna need 5 minutes by myself. Yes. Yeah, it's gorgeous.
That's the first time I got to do that with somebody. That was so fun. like look at a 5-man on my show.
Hey, you know what? There are times when I love being a naughty influence.
I
That's
do. Me
perfectly
too.
fine. You know what?
Yep.
Hey, if there are some things that are correct about me, and I own it.
Oh yeah, I am the maker of questionable decisions. So you often say that seemed like a good idea at the time.
Right,
Like,
right. Yes, yes.
and I'm an ethical slut, so there's that too.
Hey, yeah, yeah, yep, absolutely.
Yep.
So, yeah.
So on that note, we're going to wrap up the show because we're 5 man into the show. So that's a great place to end.
Yes.
Because I'm hungry. I want to go eat dinner. Okay, so where can people find you as other than Black Non-Believers? What going on? Any shows coming up? Like what's going on, girl?
Okay, yes. So you can check out our YouTube channel at Black Non-Believers Inc. Our next episode of In the Cut will be this coming Saturday, where Detroit Atheist Queen will be our special guest. Yes, I will also be on The Roots Matter very soon with Cynthia. And we're going to be doing a few virtual things with being probably doing some holiday stuff. But yes, please do stay tuned on In the Cut so that you can learn about what we're doing. We will have information about BNCCon 2026 very soon, and one of our speakers will be Godless Engineer. So we will have GE there. So and along with so many others. Also, we're going to keep you posted on the Revival of Reason, Being's 15th anniversary, and all of the places that we will be, for the annual events. And so there's going to be a lot going on in 2026. We hope, and yes, I will be at the Rocket City Reason Con that John and Casey are putting together. So absolutely, I will be there. And we'll also be at the 10th anniversary of the Ark Encounter protest. We're going to shout out to Joe, the Kentucky atheist, who spearheaded that this year. That was fantastic. He did such an amazing job on that, as well as the other organizers. And so I'd like to give such such a shout out to all the folks. And yes, find us all over the socials, Facebook, Instagram, BlueSky. And yeah, you can get to that.
All the socials.
All the socials. But yes, please do subscribe to our YouTube channel. And when we're live, please do drop us a super chat because our channel is monetized. Thanks to those who watched the Kent Hovind debate on our channel.
I watched it. Oh my Lord. I use that unironically.
Yes. So that was great. So yeah.
Yeah, it was great.
Yeah. So definitely subscribe to our YouTube channel where you can see and catch up on previous episodes of In the Cut, as well as videos from previous events that we've done. And just check out all of the wonderful things that that BN has done. Yes, I will be on Kelly's live stream as well. So yeah, just catch me wherever. So yeah.
Catch you wherever. That's
right.
it.
Catch me outside.
Catch you outside. All right. So Cynthia is going to be on my channel next Tuesday. We're talking about progressive politics, words versus action. So we're going to talk about that on same here Tuesday at 7 p.m. Next Thursday, I don't have a guest. If you would like to be a guest, email me. I haven't set one up yet. Or shoot, and we're friends, just slide into my DMs. Do that as well. Because I need a guest for next Thursday.
Yeah.
I'm trying to get more bookings this month because I know I'm going to have to be off my pod for a little bit with my lady. My uterus has squatters in it that I did not invite, and they're doing construction. They're ruining the foundation. They're not paying rent. So
right.
Anyway,
they are living rent free, and they need to
They're living rent free, and I don't like them.
Yeah.
There's no structural damage down there. I don't like it. Fucking with my life. Fucking with my sex life, which is worse.
Oh anyway, yeah. We don't want that.
So anyway, everybody. So come see Cynthia on Tuesday, and in the meantime, Stay skeptical, stay kind, give someone a compliment. And I will see you all here on Tuesday. Bye, muffos.
Bye.
Bye, internet. Bye. Thank you. And thank you again to Mandisa. Go check out Black NonBelievers. Bye.